You know, there's this secret feeling that follows around even the most successful people out there. It's that little voice in the back of your head, the one that whispers, "You don't belong here," even when you're standing exactly where you're supposed to be. Today, we're going to pull the mask off that feeling.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever been sitting in a meeting or maybe starting a new job and you get that sinking feeling in your stomach? That feeling that any second now someone's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, "We know you're faking it."
Well, if that question hit a little too close to home, I want you to look at this number. A whopping 82% of people feel that exact same way at some point. So no, you're not going crazy. You are in very, very good company.
What we're talking about here has a name: imposter syndrome. It's this nagging, deep-down belief that you're a total fraud, even when all the evidence, your diploma, your job title, the compliments people give you, all of it says the complete opposite.
Okay, but to really get a handle on this, we need to be crystal clear about what we're actually dealing with. So let's make a really, really important distinction right now.
First off, imposter syndrome is not the same as low self-esteem. See, imposter syndrome usually pops up in specific situations, especially around achievements, like at work or in school. Low self-esteem, on the other hand, well, it's kind of everywhere. It's a general feeling that can seep into every little corner of your life.
All right, now that we've got a definition, let's zoom in a bit. A researcher, Dr. Valerie Young, did some amazing work on this and broke it down into 5 main types. So as we go through these, I want you to ask yourself, hey, does that sound a little bit like me?
First up, we've got a real classic. Type 1 is the perfectionist.
For the perfectionist, 99% isn't good enough. It has to be 100% every single time. They set these ridiculously high goals, and if they miss that mark by just an inch, they see it as a total failure. Their biggest fear? Just not measuring up.
Okay, moving on to our second type. Let's talk about the superwoman or superman.
These are the people who feel like imposters, surrounded by real professionals, so they compensate by working harder and longer than everyone else around them. They're basically trying to outwork their insecurity, getting hooked on the validation that comes from just being busy all the time.
Next up, we have a type that sets an equally impossible standard, but in a totally different way. This is the natural genius.
The natural genius judges themselves on how fast and easy things come to them. They have this core belief that if they were truly smart or talented, they wouldn't have to work so hard. So the second they have to struggle with something, they feel this wave of shame.
All right, our fourth type. This person operates from a place of intense independence that can honestly be pretty isolating. Let's meet the soloist.
The soloist lives by a simple rule. They have to do it all themselves. For them, asking for help isn't collaboration. It's a bright, flashing sign that says, "I'm a failure." They're convinced that needing any kind of assistance will finally expose them as a fraud. And that brings us to our fifth and final type. This is someone who feels trapped by the endless pursuit of just knowing more. Meet the expert.
The expert ties their self-worth to how much they know, so they're terrified of being exposed as inexperienced. This is the person who won't apply for a job unless they check every single box, who is always taking one more class, one more certification. It can actually become a way to avoid taking real action.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem, we've seen all the different ways it can show up. Now for the big question. What in the world do you do about it? Well, the answer might surprise you.
And here it is, the most important takeaway of this whole thing. The goal isn't to become more skilled or more accomplished to prove you're not an imposter. That's a game you can never win. The real secret is to change the way you think.
Dr. Young nails it with this quote. You have to stop thinking like an imposter. You can't just wait around for the feeling to magically disappear. You have to change your thoughts first, because your feelings, well, they're the last thing to get the memo.
So, if the key is to stop thinking like an imposter, how do we actually pull that off? Okay, let's roll up our sleeves and get into a real battle plan.
For every type, there's a countermove. If you're the perfectionist, start seeing mistakes as a totally normal part of learning. A superwoman, try to find validation from inside, not from how many hours you work. If you're a natural genius, remind yourself that you're a work in progress. Soloist, you got to learn that asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. And for the experts, try learning things as you need them and then turn around and mentor someone else.
And look, here are 3 powerhouse strategies that work for anybody. 1. Talk about it. The moment you share these feelings, they lose so much of their power. 2. Figure out your triggers. When does that little voice get the loudest? And 3, and this is a big one, start a competency file.
Seriously, a folder where you keep every nice email, every piece of praise, every success. It's hard evidence against that inner critic.
Now, before we finish up, let's try on one last idea. What if this whole feeling isn't entirely a bad thing? As Dr. Subhaneef says, maybe it's just a little check-in, something that keeps us from getting too arrogant. It keeps us humble.
So I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. What if that feeling, that sense of being out of your depth, of being a fraud, what if it's not a sign you don't belong? What if it's actually the ultimate sign that you're pushing yourself, that you're learning and challenging yourself and growing? What if it's just what growth feels like?